Hello everyone, time for a quick update on the channel I think. Those of you who've been following my channel for a little while now have probably come to realise that I don't post videos that often at the moment. At the time of recording this it's probably something like one video a month if I'm lucky, and you'll probably also notice that the topics for the videos seem to be a little bit all over the place. What really inspired me to get going with this YouTube channel in the first place was the whole idea of building a guitar. But being a fan of YouTube, I see other people recording things like making music, tips, all this kind of thing, and it's something that I do as well, so I'm sort of keen to share on all that. But having so long to think between all these videos that I'm putting out, I keep sort of changing the idea as to what I'm going to put on the channel and what I'm not. I've got gear acquisition syndrome, where I talk about what I've been buying and what I'd quite like to buy gear wise, the guitar build, we've got the amplifier modification, all this kind of thing. I'm aware that some of the videos that I've been putting up have been a little bit disjointed, they've been a little bit rough around the edges, the topics might have been a little bit all over the place, but I'm doing that knowing full well that that's the case because I'm wanting to experiment, get feedback from all you lovely people as to what you do like, what you don't like, all this kind of thing. And I think, you know, going forward there would be space for all of these topics that I've covered if I was doing it full time, but of course I'm not. I'm knocking out maybe one video a month, as I've already said. So I think going forward, anything that I do in the shed, which is going to be basically the guitar build stuff, maybe some bits of the amp stuff, all that kind of thing, is just going to follow one continual regular update. Hopefully a little bit more snappy, a little bit less talking. If you do want to see more in-depth stuff, more in-depth tutorials, then by all means ask for them. I might even recycle some of that footage into separate videos so that you can inspect that stuff if you want to. But for the time being, I just want to get regular updates out, I think, on what's going on. More on that next time I actually make it into the shed. There have been some developments, but hush hush for now. So, on the other hand, there's all these videos, as I say, that I've been doing so far with regards to gear reviews and all this kind of thing. Let's give you some updates on all that stuff right now. So, gear acquisition syndrome, as I was calling it. Well, the very first thing that I bought was a Yamaha DX7 keyboard or synthesizer, and I think that cost me, it's been so long now actually, I think that cost me about 200? Yeah, £200 at auction, maybe about 220 or something once you added on all the fees. Now, I had a great deal of success with that. I actually managed to sell all of the accessories so that was the stand that came with it, the foot pedals, the ROM cartridges. I think all of those sold all together for nearly £200 themselves. That's without even actually including the synthesizer itself. Believe me, I was very, very tempted to keep that synthesizer. It's a great synthesizer. If I had the room for it, even just for nostalgia's sake, I'd love to keep a hold of it, but I just don't have the space. And when I know that I can get the same sound from a VST plugin, probably even a free VST plugin, I just couldn't justify keeping one round at this time, so I decided to sell the synthesizer. So within about an hour of it being listed on eBay, I think a chap from London bought synthesizer for nearly £300, so that was sort of well into the profit, and I gave him some postage options as well, and he was willing to pay, I think it was something like £60 to have it fully insured through a courier and everything. I thought, great, fantastic. So I got the thing wrapped up and I shopped around for a courier that was willing to actually insure a musical instrument, because that in itself is really, really hard to find, especially when it comes to guitars and things. Posted it all off, job's a good one. What, £300 profit off my first item, brilliant. And then about 2-3 days later I had a message from the guy saying that he'd received it and the end of the keyboard had been smashed in. Now obviously that was quite upsetting, very disappointing. I'm not a big shop that can absorb losses like this. So the chap opted to return the thing to me for a refund, which is fair enough, that's his prerogative. But thankfully, or at least thankfully so I thought, I'd paid to insure the thing. So I'd packed this thing in a flight case, wrapped in bubble wrap, with cardboard stuffed all around it so it couldn't move. The flight case itself was also wrapped in several layers of bubble wrap and then cardboard. So it was, you know, quite well protected, and it was dropped off with the courier. As I say, it arrived damaged. Not only did it arrive damaged in terms of the end being smashed in though, but both ends of the keyboard were smashed in. So what had actually happened was, I mean, a DX7, in case you don't know, is a very, very heavy keyboard. The keyboard had seemingly been dropped on its end with enough force that despite being packed in with cardboard, it had effectively managed to smash the end of the keyboard against the end of the case with enough force to crack it. Not only crack it, but actually crack the metal from the body of the keyboard as well. And then the same thing had happened on the other end, and it smashed it on that end as well. I mean, bear in mind, this thing was packed in so that it couldn't move, you know. So I was pretty annoyed, and the customer service level I received from UPS and trying to get all this sorted as well, I think it took them nearly a week to collect it from the chap in question. I think they were saying that their computer systems couldn't actually process the return because of the way I'd bought the label, even though I'd just gone on their website and bought the postage. And ultimately they turned around also and said that because the external case of the keyboard hadn't been damaged, then there was no evidence that they had caused damage to the keyboard, and therefore they wouldn't refund it. They wouldn't honour the insurance. Not only that, but what I purchased wasn't insurance, it was liability cover or something like that. In other words, they tried to get out of paying for this thing. Now, I'm a reasonable guy. Maybe I could have packed the thing better so that it wasn't damaged. That's always the case. You could always pack something better and better and better, but the point was this thing was packed to withstand a fair impact, and I know for a fact to actually break this thing in the way that it was broken, it would have had to have been dropped on its end, well, both ends, from a height of sort of maybe 3 foot or something like that, you know. It just, I was unimpressed, should we say. So not only that, but they actually returned it to the location that I originally posted it from without telling me. As far as I was concerned, the item was still within the depot in London. In that time, the same delivery company, UPS, managed to leave several £100 worth of tone wood on a doorstep in the main street, despite it requiring a signature. You know, so I've got nothing but bad things to say about UPS, quite frankly. I'm sure these things happen with any courier company, but what's the point in purchasing insurance if they're not going to cover things? We'll never use them again. A word of caution about selling things online, I guess. So in the end, I had to refund that chap his money. It cost. Oh, and they charged me for the return as well, which was nice of them. So ultimately, I probably lost about £60 or £70 worth of postage on that. I resold it, sold as seen, broken, in need of repairs. If I'd held on to it long enough, I would have been able to find replacement parts for the end, but it was just hanging around taking up space. So I think I got about £150 for it. So yeah, in the end, we sold the accessories for £200 and the thing itself sold for about £150. I had to absorb about half of that nearly in postage costs. So at the end of the day, I had a little bit of fun. I got to try the keyboard and I still made about £70 profit. Not the end of the world, just could have been a bit better than it was. In addition to that, there was a chap on a local sale page, I think it was actually Facebook, was selling a guitar he had left lying around in his cupboard for £20. And let me show you that. BC Rich Warlock, probably just about the cheapest Warlock you could possibly buy. Probably cost less than £200 brand new. It's a Rave 2 if anyone's interested. I mean, the hardware on this thing's dead cheap and it needs new strings and everything. It needs a good sing to in all respects really, but it actually has a fantastic neck on it for a cheap guitar. The neck feels absolutely brilliant. There's nothing wrong with the tuners. I think it could probably do with all new electronics, all new hardware. I've actually got the back off it at the moment. I actually stole a capacitor out of there for the amplifier when I was short of one, but never mind. But I mean, come on, £20. And I thought what we could probably do with this is use it as a test case for spraying a guitar. We can strip it down, clean it, and you know, we haven't really paid anything for it, so if it does go horribly wrong, then no harm, no foul. Much better to try on this than you know, a guitar that I've been slaving over for months and months and months working on. Might as well get some practice in with this. So we'll probably get some cheap Wilkinson hardware in it, just give it a nice little tidy up, a bit of a setup, and repaint it. Not necessarily in that order. So that's another little project. Oh yeah, and something else I've learned about Warlocks is they don't go on a conventional guitar stand. Very annoying to try and stand it up anywhere. The Dallas Scala amplifier, that's very much still a work in progress. The latest on that one is that I have completed a schematic for some upgrades that I'm planning, and we also have a speaker on the way to try out on that, so there'll definitely be some videos on that soon. I want to save the news from the shed until we're actually there, because then I can show you these things in person. I mentioned that I was upgrading my carbon copy to a carbon copy deluxe. That has arrived. That is now on my pedal board. I wasn't really planning on getting into pedal reviews, but if that is something people do want to hear, just ask and I will give it a go. Likewise, there was a bargain Tone City Model M pedal came up, which is effectively a cheap but good Marshall style overdrive pedal. I've got that there sitting waiting to try. It's been there for a little while now. I think actually the most important purchase I've made recently in terms of making music is I've traded in my bass guitar for another one. The bass guitar that I've had for about the past 2 or 3 years is an Ibanez RBX 270J, which is effectively a standard passive bolt-on neck bass. Very good bass, excellent for a beginner. I had some massive thick Elixir strings on there and it was great for slap and all this kind of thing, but recently I've been chasing a really good bass tone, and I mean there's two styles of music I generally like to try and create. One of them is the kind of the jazz, funk, soul type stuff, and the other is the hard rock. And certainly where the jazzy, funkier stuff's concerned, I was really struggling to get a really sort of prominent low end that really stood out in the mix, but at the same time didn't swamp everything else. And that's just a matter of EQ. But I noticed some of the guys that I really admire in terms of bass playing, like Bernard Edwards from Chic, they were using active basses, and I began to get curious about how an active bass sounds versus passive bass. So basically, yeah, I went and bought an active bass. It's not an expensive one by any means. It's probably even cheaper than the Yamaha. It's an Ibanez Soundgear SR300, older model I think. And this model is actually the same, or practically the same, as the one I got my fiance a couple of Christmases ago. And it's got a much slimmer neck, much easier to play. It's actually multi-laminate neck as well, so even though it's a bolt-on, it seems to be more sturdy. But all importantly, it's not active pickups, it's an active EQ, but you've got a really low-end boost in there, and you've got low mids, high mids, and a treble boost. You can really dial in an excellent bass sound before you've even hit anything. I've just been plugging this straight into the Apollo interface with a flat preamp on there, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. It's really weird. The EQ that I'm doing on this bass is effectively the same as what I was doing to my passive bass, but for whatever reason, doing it on the guitar before you even hit the preamp just really seems to make it more punchy, more prominent without being muddy. So I really like it. What can I say? Highly recommend this bass. Again, if you want to hear how it sounds, I mean, it's what I'm going to be using on all my recordings anyway, but just let me know and I can do a demo for you. Anything else on the spending money front? No, I think other than records, that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, the gear that I was keeping an eye on from NAMM, I noticed that Victory finally recently released those preamp pedals. I don't know if they're doing particularly well with sales or anything, but you can see all the other guys online reviewing them at the moment. As predicted, they do use some non-standard valves. They do look pretty cool. I'm yet to sort of make my mind up tonally at what I think they're like. As I thought, the price of them doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The more and more I'm looking through eBay, I'm seeing basic tube amps that sound great. For example, the Jet City amps and things like that are coming up second hand for well under £200. You can actually get a valve amp that you could use as a preamp for a hell of a lot less. But you know, they're still really, really cool pieces of kit nonetheless. I noticed, thinking back to the review I did of what I saw in the NAMM shows, those aux amp top boxes really seem to take off. Universal Audio seem to be doing really, really well in general in the kind of semi-pro audio arena at the moment. They've just got a good rep, I guess. Those aux amp top boxes do actually look really good, but still, I know one thing that a lot of people seem to complain about is they don't have a vintage 30 loaded cab in there, which, you know, is fair enough. I think certainly the way I feel at the moment, I still feel like just getting a preamp sound into the computer and then running 2 notes wall of sound is probably going to be more than adequate for what I need. The random album review didn't seem to get particularly good feedback. I think most people found that a little bit boring, which is fair enough. Certainly was quite drawn out for what it was. If anyone out there did like it or would like to see something similar but maybe a little bit different, by all means let me know. I was really trying to avoid actually reviewing the albums that were coming out that I was getting excited about. I think there's Slash is releasing a new album, which is one I'm really looking forward to. Nile Rodgers has released a new Chic album, which I was curious to have a look at. He seems to have kind of gone down the route of trying to do modern pop songs though, in a kind of Santana Supernatural-esque collaboration. Unfortunately though, on first listen, I don't think it's really worked, which is a bit of a shame. Other than that, when I'm shopping around for vinyl at the minute, has anyone looked at how much original 2-pack albums cost on vinyl? 2-pack's greatest hits, I think I saw it going on Amazon for £200 recently. Even on Discogs it's not much cheaper. Wish I'd known that one a few years ago. So I think I've rambled long enough really, but just to let you know, there will be videos probably in the next month to 2 months. I'm hoping to get a couple of videos out on the Dallas Scala amp, and I'm also going to get some more updates from the shed. I'd really appreciate your feedback on the Dallas Scala one in particular. I really don't know how in depth you would like me to go on the electronics side of things. I'm aiming to keep things a lot more briefer, I think, for the time being. If you want me to claw over schematics and all that kind of thing, I can. But I think just more snappy updates on how these things, what I've done, and how these things actually sound once I've done them, are probably going to be more to most people's taste. Likewise, the guitar build, there's going to be so much going on there that again I think it's going to be just little snappy updates as opposed to the massive drawn out videos that I tend to be prone to, because I do tend to ramble. That said, I think that's enough for now. Goodbye.